Well, good morning, everybody. And first, may I say what an honor it is to be speaking to you today at such an amazing summit with so many amazing people and so many extraordinary subjects. And let me also say what an honor it is to be speaking together with my friend and colleague from Tokyo, Koko, Kato. Yesterday took us on a voyage through some amazing technical subjects and also took us through some really quite harrowing and very, very important issues relating to heritage more generally. This morning, we are going to be dealing with the ultimate uplifting heritage, a giant crane. We are also dealing with a subject that is truly riveting and primarily riveted. And at that point, I'm going to cease the poor jokes and move on and tell you what we're going to do. First, I was going to talk about the Scottish 10 aims, but I'm going to spin through this part very, very quickly and then give a Scottish 10 update, which is equally very, very quick, because the meat of what you're going to hear today is from Koko, and is going to be explaining to you what's been happening with her World Heritage nomination, of which this project is a principal part. Because what we're really going to talk about is the impact that the technologies we are here to discuss at this conference can have, the positive impact it can have on conserving and celebrating the industrial heritage. So the meat of it's going to be Koko, and then I'm going to make a couple of points at the end just about the significance of these technologies in relation to industrial heritage more generally, and Doug sort of touched on those points. So to start with, the project aims, and these have already been discussed at considerable length yesterday. But one of the principal points I'd like to make is that we have a fantastic partnership. Within the partnership is the expertise that's brought by the Glasgow School of Art's Digital Documentation Centre, and the Centre for Digital Documentation and Visualization, CDDV. And together with our other big partner, CyArk, sorry, I'm going to go back a moment. Some of you may recognize a few of these faces on our World Heritage nomination. That has created a very strong, a very potent mix with which we can go forward. And so, again, I'm going to spin past the main aims of the project because it's basically about conservation. And Doug said yesterday how important the 3D laser scanning technologies and visualizations are for managing the heritage, for the conservation process. And that is what it's all about for us. And so, moving on past some familiar images from yesterday, we have also already recorded 9 of our Scottish 10 sites. 5 of them are in Scotland. We saw this picture from Neolithic Orkney yesterday. We have the islands of St Kilda, an archipelago that's been abandoned on the northwest side of Scotland, a truly extraordinary landscape. And all of these represent really significant different challenges and different scales for the technologies to deal with. This is my patch, this is industrial heritage, this is New Lanark, just to the south of Glasgow, an extraordinary 18th century cotton mill complex, an utopian settlement. And then there's Edinburgh, which is a middle of a city, the old and new towns. And just to add, Doug mentioned the Glasgow model yesterday that was pioneered by the Glasgow School of Art. We have the basis of an Edinburgh model. And in terms of managing the heritage, what this technology allows us to do, and allows the planning authorities to do, is to assess new developments and put them into the model and work out the likely impact of proposed developments and accept them or reject them. A hugely powerful tool that this technology brings us. We also have the Romans. Yes, the Romans came to Scotland. We have the Roman frontier at the Antonine Wall. Another challenge through many local authorities, a huge management issue. And then the first of our overseas Scottish 10 subjects was, of course, Mount Rushmore, which we heard a lot about yesterday, and the beautiful Ranny Kivav. And very challenging, and Doug, you were involved in this one. This was the Eastern Qing tombs to the northeast of Beijing, which had the added delight of having a Bactrian camel living in it at the time. And for me, the big surprise was the Opera House in Sydney, because I wasn't necessarily convinced this was a good idea, but I didn't realize there were no as-built drawings, and the technology really sprung into life here and has produced an amazing record of huge practical value in the management process. So the major update news we've already heard yesterday, and that is that this technology was crucial in persuading ICOMOS that the management processes were in place to look after Rani Kivav. So that's one of the reasons why both our nominations are going to be using this technology to demonstrate and to help us manage our World Heritage sites should they be inscribed. And we'll do it anyway. We are doing it anyway. So happy people in July. So at this point, I'm going to hand over to Koko, and Koko is going to tell you a bit more about the context of why we're doing this crane. So over to you, Koko.
Thank you. Okay. Yes. Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to participate in CyArk conference. And thank you, Miles, for giving us an opportunity. I'm now working on this big nomination, Sites of Japan's Meiji Industrial Revolution, Kyushu, Yamaguchi, and the related areas for the last 15 years. It's a long years. And I'm now working as a project manager of this project, and also working for the Cabinet Secretariat project team, and also the founder and managing director of the National Congress of Industrial Heritage. We set up for the foundation to support this nomination. And let me explain a little bit of the historic background of this nomination, and then why we are working on this 3D laser scanning. This nominated property is a series of 23 component parts located in 8 areas and 11 cities. It's a serial nomination. And these sites comprise a singular ensemble of industrial heritage sites that demonstrates the chronological development of industrialization of Japan, which happens from mid-19th century to 20th centuries. We are an industrial nation, and technology is the soul of Japanese culture. Japan has achieved rapid industrialization that was founded in key industrial sectors in shipbuilding, iron and steel, and coal mining from the mid-19th century to the beginning of 20th century. This successful transfer of industrialization that has happened in just a little over 50 years without being colonized, and Japan maintaining the control of industrialization process on its own terms. At the time, it was really the phenomena in the world. In mid-19th century, as you see, this Admiral Perry's second visit to Edo Bay. This is very famous paintings. But Japan was highly organized feudal society governed by clans under Tokugawa isolationist policy. At that time, any attempt to leave the country was strictly forbidden. Any contact with foreigners was forbidden. And the shogunate regulates free trade and commerce, and of course the production of arms and weapons, no religions, and most importantly, shogunate banned any large vessel shipbuildings to go into high sea. Therefore, the bezaisen, the single-mast wooden sailing boat, was typically used for inter-island transportation. So therefore, you see like a black ship, it's the size of the black ship, Susquehanna. When U.S. East Indian Squadron, led by Admiral Perry, came over to Edo Bay across the big Pacific Ocean. It shook the whole nation. So our nomination is basically divided into three phases: trial and error experimentation period, direct importation of the technology, full-blown industrialization. Those are the three categories of industrialization. And then responding to Admiral Perry's visit, Shogunate encouraged all the clans to start building the iron cannon and the steamboat in order to defend the nation. That was the first trial and error period. And all the samurais in clans and shogunate rushed to build the vibratory furnace and the blast furnace, and then tried to build the steamboat based on copying the Western Dutch textbook and also copying the example of disabled ships. However, the building the steamship required a comprehensive technology that was not available. And do-it-yourself phase of experimentation just based on the Dutch technology was not successful. Then, direct importation period came over. In light of the big pressure from domestic and from overseas, samurais and also shogunate gradually opened the nation. They opened the few ports, and also shogunate built some steamboat repair factories and tried to teach samurai how to build the ship. More direct importation of the technology was quite successful. And then this is Thomas B. Glover, the Scottish guy. He was one of the agents of Jardine Matheson, which is in Hong Kong, came over and started to sell arms, cannons, and guns directly to those clans. That's the point that Japanese understand. The first agreement of Western business people, concept of the company, and started to introduce the science and technology. This is the scene that all those clans purchasing the cannons and then guns. This is the beginning of our Meiji period. This is the full-blown industrialization period. And under the isolation period, 5 young men from Choshu left England on a clandestine trip to voyage to England in Tokugawa isolationist period. What they saw was industrial nation. They were determined to build industrial Japan based on the economy based on industrial economy, free from economic and political subordination. Then we started to build Meiji. It took about 50 years to build those shipbuilding, iron making, and then coal mining. Okay, this is Mitsubishi Man. This was from those clans, feudal clans, who came to buy the arms, but accepting the Western corporate culture, and then started to understand the manufacturing, and then they became the company. They started the company of Mitsubishi Corporation in 1870s. And after the revolution of Meiji, they dropped this word. They dropped the identification of samurai. They trained the men to be able to manufacture the ships with the support of Scottish and the British. And by the time that Japan started the productions and perfected the steels in Yawata, and this is the pictures of Japan, a British Japan exhibition held in London in 1910. And Japan started to produce these steel products and show the display of the catalog. And that's the time that Japan recognized and gained the recognition of industrial nation. So these 23 component parts demonstrate that how Japan was industrialized from trial and error period to direct importation technology and full-blown industrialization period with newly acquired technologies and domestic expertise, adoption and adaptation process of the technology. We spent 7 years to select 23 component parts out of 400 to 500 sites we visited. With, this is Cerny Cousins, and then there are some British and Australian experts in the expert committee and with hot debates. And then we realized that if we use the existing system of the cultural property law, it is very difficult to include some of the component parts, which are obvious component, essential one in the nomination, such as operating sites. So we studied this article, Operational Guideline 40 and 39, and we decided to open the gate to private sectors to participate in the protection, and went to administrative reform and changed the government system. The government of Japan was responding to us by several cabinet decisions to change the systems and then devise a new strategic framework, and studied the 114 and 110 of the operational guideline and use every possible mechanism to protect all the operational sites and owned by the private industrial owners. So industrial owners are now participating in our nomination. Those industrial owners are now protection partners of World Heritage. And we also set up the foundation to support the research and then also digitalize old photos and archives. And then each owners of the site prepared this conservation management plan for the first time in Japan with a management policy to respect the Ikomostoiki joint principle. And also the government of Japan, for the first time, underpinning, using the Ikomostoiki principle for the underpinning the guideline. So in that sense, it's quite revolutionary challenge. We also changed the port plan, the regional plan, in order to be consistent with the conservation management plan. So it was anchored with regional plan. It's a living port, it's Mike. So without changing the use of just being as an operative site, they can participate in World Heritage. So we have developed a good private-public partnership based on those new changes. And overarching authority, Cabinet Secretariat, takes full responsibilities and encourages all the government ministries to participate. This is a Yawata factory. It was the oldest steel framed factory in Japan, and it is from Germany. 1909, it was brought in, and still 2014, still repair factory in the same function. This is Giant Cantilever Crane. It's my favorite. And we have a lot of challenges in the conservation. We submitted the nomination to UNESCO, but we have to challenge the enhanced integrity. We are going to use the accurate data after the capturing 3D data. We are going to use it as a baseline of management, record for the management. And then also, there are many sites which are not accessible. We are going to use it for interpretation. This is National Congress for Industrial Heritage International Conference. We just organized in July 14th and 15th with 1,700 people participating in the conference with Prime Minister and then several cabinet ministers. We have a lot of support from many government people. This is local community. You see Miles, and then Brian. It's a Scottish flag, and then British flag too. And this is interpretation. We'd like to use 3D for interpretation. And this is really the very strong photos of Gunkanjima under the typhoon. We just finished the assessment from the ICOMOS assessor a few days ago. It was 2 weeks under the typhoon. And Gunkanjima is very difficult to access under the typhoon, you can see. So operational sites owned by private sectors are also those Gunkanjima are quite difficult to access. So for those sites, we are particularly interested in using 3D technology. And then also, we recover a lot of dry glass plate. It's old photos with the Seiko Epson's technology, using particularly medical equipment to recover old photos. And then this 3D, we are working with Miles for many sites. And some of them are not decided, but we, not for the first year, maybe second, third year, we are planning to do. And then, as you see, industrial heritage is not only tangible, but intangible aspect. And for us, digital documentation is crucial to transmit the value, because, of course, the protections of the fabric, physical fabric, is very important. But presenting the accurate values, we need intangible aspect to also pass to the next generation. So this is the end of my presentation, and I'm going to pass it over to Miles. Thank you.
So you can imagine what an extraordinary honor and how exciting it is to be working with Koko as part of this extraordinary project. So One of the highlights just recently was actually signing an agreement with our colleagues in the Japanese government. This is Ms. Ueno, who's from the Cultural Ministry, or MEXT as it's known, with our Cabinet Secretary Fiona Hislop, who many of you will have met last year in London at the last CyArk 500, or first CyArk 500 summit. And this is the crane itself that we're focusing most of our attention on. You can see how it looks now. It looks resplendent and it dominates the harbor. There is a lot of information which I'm not going to share with you about these cranes, except to say that there's a bronze plaque or relief sculpture outside this building which depicts one of the American ones that is still surviving in the world. So it's another lecture, these cranes. But they are immensely significant in their own right and represent the height of marine engineering and shipbuilding in the world. And that's the sort of thing the best shipyards had. So they're very symbolic. As Doug suggested, they're an important part of shipbuilding skylines, and particularly in Scotland. But this one is a special one because it's still working. It's been beautifully looked after by Mitsubishi, and it's still in use every day. And that's part of a problem for us when we go there in a couple of weeks' time to try to record it. There's things happening around it all the time. And you got some wonderful 4K footage of it lifting a newly machined propeller out of the propeller shop on towards a ship. So absolutely fantastic. The team of Mitsubishi, we saw evidence of the birth of Mitsubishi earlier. One of the great Japanese companies, are a major partner in this process, as Koko said. And we've already taken a look. Here is Lynn on top of the crane. And here's proof of its Glaswegian origins in 1909. So amazing that it's still working. And more. We're also recording the Kozuge dock, which Koko mentioned, which was installed in 1868, 1869 by Thomas Blake Glover, entirely of Scottish equipment from Aberdeen. And as Koko mentioned, that perhaps the biggest challenge is Gunkanjima. Those of you that have seen Skyfall, anybody seen the movie Skyfall? It's now referred to by some people as Skyfall Island because a part of it, a very dramatic part of it, was filmed on Gunkanjima, not on a day of a typhoon, I hasten to add. And this extraordinary relic of coal mining, which ceased in the 1970s and had a population of 5,000 people, is a real conservation challenge. This is how it used to look when it was occupied. It's being documented, but it lends itself to 3D recording in big time. So one of the big things about what we're trying to do is to capture active industrial heritage. And my point really here is that this technology came as a result of the need to record active industry in great detail for operational purposes. And I think it's a fitting use to put it to recording historic industries, particularly where they're still working. And this is just a slide that demonstrates some of what Koko has said, and the extent of the achievement of this nomination is to radically change the way industrial heritage is perceived and protected in Japan. And this is a slide from the Congress that Koko mentioned to just stress the extent of the political engagement that you've achieved in support of industrial heritage. Okay, I'm biased, I'm an industrial person. But we're talking about democratization in this conference. Now, this is about bringing online a feature of culture that's regularly ignored, and that is the culture of the masses, the culture of the industrial classes, the people who built this country, built my country, and built Japan. So this is a fantastic opportunity, and to see the level of political engagement that you've achieved is truly wonderful. It was an amazing evening, as you can see here, Koko leading the process. So, and what's the height of achievement is to get our industrial heritage put onto beer cans. So this is Kirin Brewery. Now, Kirin was founded by Thomas Blake Glover, or was a principal founder of it. And so it's only fitting that it should have industrial heritage on the beer. I ask you, that's the summit. So the conclusions have to be, this is a fantastic opportunity. It was originally developed for industry, and now we can use it for historic industry. And it is a form of democratization in action. And we hope also, we have a massive skills gap developing in our society. High unemployment, but also people who are emerging from schools and colleges with the capacity only to operate smartphones. They can't actually do anything practical. We think that by providing people with virtual access to working industries that cannot be visited but are absolutely amazing in terms of what they are and how they operate, we think that using this technology can bring people back in touch with and inspire them to take an interest in the industrial and material world around them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Can you mention that the
Okay, Koko's just asked me to mention that Fuji Television and Sony, Fuji Television is here, and Sony are key partners in this process as well.
Yes, they are recording this operational sites in 4K right now. Yes.
Yeah, 4K technology. Maybe we can talk about 4K technology separately because that's quite an exciting development in its own right.
Yes.
Lovely. Okay, thank you.
Look.